award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Folks, they're spending $260 million of your money. Are they doing it right? Hi, I'm Sam Lesante, and this is part 2 of the show we're having here at Luzerne County Courthouse on the Luzerne County form of government. We changed from the commissioners back in 2012 to a council form and a management form. Is the manager doing what he should be doing? I said it's at $268 million. They're spending your money. Is he spending it wisely? My guest today, Bob Lawton, who is the manager, county manager, Rick Morelli, who is chairman, and also the Honorable Judge Tom Burke. We're in his chambers. Okay, Bob, thanks for. We're going to continue on our show. I said we have $268 million, and we're talking about where the council sets the policies, of course, and then says, okay, Bob Lawton, here you go. You run with it, okay? So far, has that been effective?
I think it's been extraordinarily effective. You have to remember that fiscally we took over from a form of government that borrowed money to pay operating expenses, that ran pretty large deficits on a regular basis, that borrowed money to give it away to nonprofits and local governments. I think it's been a pretty big improvement. We had a tough start in 2012. My predecessor, on an interim basis, gave the new council a budget that double counted about $4 million in revenue, didn't account for about $4 million in other expenses from the prior year that you couldn't avoid, like staffing at the jail, overtime costs, contracts. Just wishing it away wouldn't make it so. So we had a problem with that year's budget. We had an operating deficit. In 2013, we controlled very vigorously personnel costs, contract costs, and those all came out on budget. We did have an issue with debt service. Wall Street had their hand in our pocket and continues to do so with our massive debt. So we went down about $1 million on $1.8 million in unanticipated debt service costs, thanks to Wall Street. And I made a decision in 2014 not to monetize our prior year tax revenues. What that does is essentially you're collecting in advance on revenue that you will receive in future years. And it had been a time-honored practice here in Luzerne County to borrow against future tax revenues. The problem is that, first of all, you don't get the whole amount that you borrow if you waited that you would get. Instead of getting $4 million, you lose anywhere from 5 to 10% that goes off to the folks who are so eager to loan you the money. And then you don't get that money in the future year. So if you monetize, you solve today's problem, but you create a whole new problem for tomorrow. And I made the decision that we weren't going to pursue that this year, in 2013. And so that created another shortfall. So over the course of the 2 years between the budget that was laid down to us from the previous administration or from the previous manager, and our decision to have a sustainable revenue source by not monetizing, there's about a $10 million deficit, if you will, an ongoing deficit in the general fund, but we are meeting expenses with revenues on an ongoing basis now. So 2014, I'm pretty confident when that audit comes back, it's going to show that we met expenses with revenues. That's a huge step forward.
Probably for the first time, some people will be hearing you on my show. Who is Bob Lawton? Who is this guy? I mean, when you're investing money with any financial person, or if you're going to a doctor, or if you need something, you want to know about their reputation. Are they good? Do they have experience, et cetera, et cetera? So you're talking about managing $260 million. What are your credentials?
Well, I've been in public service, started in 1982. working in the state legislature in New York. I've been a county manager in Wisconsin, California, Pennsylvania. I've been in county government in other states. In California, I was responsible at one point for a single department of county government with a budget bigger than the entire county of Luzerne, and with more employees. So I've got a fair amount of experience in a number of jurisdictions. I have a master's degree from the University of Iowa, and I've been in county government proper for well over 10 years, and in state government for most of the rest of my career. So I'm a professional manager. I'm credentialed. I'm a member of numerous professional societies, and I am not part of the political process. I'm here to do the best job possible for the public. You know, I'm hired by the council, but I work for the public, and I think I believe in the independence of the executive as set forth in the charter. This is really a unique document, not just in Pennsylvania, but I think among United counties in the United States. Most people don't realize that the executive branch is the manager's office. The council is the legislative branch. It's like Washington, and there are strict prohibitions against the legislative branch interfering in day-to-day operations. And in most townships and most counties in the United States that have a manager, the elected body has all of the power and decides how much they're going to parcel out to the manager. Here in the charter, there's a strict division, a strict separation of powers, and the manager is designated by a supermajority of the council. That's 7 out of 11, and it takes 7 out of 11 to replace the manager. It really is a document that wanted to have a strong executive that has ultimately accountability to the council and the public, but who also has the ability to be free from looking over their shoulder on a day-to-day basis, worrying about what 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people do. I don't work for 5 council members, 6 council members, or even 11 council members. I work for the institution of the council and the people of this county.
Are you happy?
I'm absolutely thrilled. This is the best job in America.
Would you ever? Well, then you answered my question. You take this job all over again, right?
I would.
Sam, if I could say something real quick about Bob. Bob has the toughest job here.
No question about
when he got hired, I told him.
No, Judge Burke has the toughest job here.
Not anymore.
But when he got hired, he had a standing ovation. I said, Bob, enjoy that because it's going to be the last one. It's true. And it is.
He's so full of encouragement, isn't it?
But the point is, anyone who takes that job, if Bob were to leave, is going to be in the same situation. When you're in a position like he is and have to make tough decisions, you're going to have a target on your back. And when you make tough decisions for the employees, when you make tough decisions against council members, you have to accept criticism. And one of the things that bothers me, and Bob knows this, I don't give him free reins. We challenge each other, but I think the way I handle things is when I have a problem with Bob, I ask him a question rather than making an accusation. And I think that's the difference between some people we see on council. And that's the way it should be. You know, too often are we go down the path of pointing the finger or trying to say, I got you, rather than let's find the answer, let's make it better. So people think that if Bob would leave, things are going to change and things are just going to get better. It's not. We're only in this government 3 years. No matter who is here is going to have a tough job.
Well, Rick, I couldn't agree with you more as far as asking a question and challenging, because there's a whole different, we should agree to disagree, have a good debate, and then when you're done, we should not have the personality things. And I think that's the thing that frustrates me the most, is when they start getting personal and different things. But looking, as you said, as a council member right now, and in terms of how do you see the future here with the council?
Well, again, we're only in this 3 years. So understand that we have a long way to go, and that the question we have to be asking ourselves is it better? And it is. We are on the right track. Maybe we at times don't move as fast as we should. Maybe there's times we should be doing some things different. Are we making ethical and good decisions for the people? Are we trying? That's what people have to ask. And after 3 years, I can't see how someone could say, well, let's just go back to the way we were for a government we've had in place over 200 years. Council's evolving. It's going to change with the different people who are elected every 2 years. Again, I think we've taken away the politics of Republicans, Democrats in the county, which has been very strong for years. You're still going to have personalities, and that's what you have there. And again, I think the biggest challenge I'm seeing with council is members understanding their role of being the overseers, policymakers versus overstepping their boundaries. And there's more times than you could even imagine that we are often pushing back to council saying, time out, it's not our responsibility. And we have the right to ask questions, but that's as far as sometimes we could go.
You know, before I go to break, the sad thing about governments and councils is the fact that people are not educated enough to know what is happening. For example, when Congressman Morelli votes on a bill, a person will just take one part of that bill and say, well, what did he do? Not realizing that there's a lot more attached to that bill. And here with the county council, when a former county commissioner on my show said it was the best thing we could do, I was surprised, and I have to say, look, you were there, so I have to agree with you, okay? Folks, I'm talking to Bob Lawton, who is the Luzerne County Manager here, and also the Rick Morelli, and we're here with the Honorable Judge Tom Burke. We'll be back right after this break. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks, part 2. I'm here at Luzerne County Courthouse in the chambers of the Honorable Tom Burke, and we're talking to Bob Lawton, who is a Luzerne County Luzerne County Manager, the new form of government, and Rick Morelli. Judge Burke, you said something that was pretty interesting in talking about what they inherited in debt service. Will you want to explain that to me and to the public?
Well, there's no getting away from the fact that when the new form of government took hold, they recognized that they immediately had a fiscal crisis with the aggregate debt and debt obligations that had accrued for Luzerne County. And to use a round number of $400 million, my information would suggest that your average third-class county, of which there are 12 in Pennsylvania, and generally that encompasses counties with populations ranging from a minimum of 210,000 people up to 499,000 people. But that said, the average debt obligation was somewhere in the range of 16 or 17% of county budget. In Luzerne County, we have been graduating from 19% to 21, and I believe we're up to 24, possibly going to hit 25 or 6% before it starts to reverse itself. And that impacts on everything. We recognize in the courts that on the one hand, more people generally can make things go faster, and at the same time we have reduced our court and court-related personnel from approximately 360 to approximately 290 over the past several years. But we have concerns. We would like more personnel in the Office of Judicial Services and Records. That would allow people to have their appeals processed more quickly and have judges not experience delays with processing a busy criminal docket on a particular day due to absence of a clerk and so forth. But we're working on that is what I think we can all say, and we know there's a commitment on county government's part to try and do better there, but they're also looking for the court to try to find efficiencies elsewhere.
I think
How do you prioritize? How do you prioritize? Just like he said, everyone's coming and saying, I need this, I need this, I need that.
Our first, the first thing we have to do is pay the debt service. We call that first instance money. That has to be reserved right away, and that's $29 million out of $124 million. Our public safety is our next priority, and there's a number of ways to express that. I think we've got a total between our commitments to the courts in defense, prosecution, roughly $50 million, including the prison, roughly $50 million in general fund money that goes for public safety. And when you start to chip that off of the rest of the general fund, it doesn't leave a lot to do the things that we want to do. And I just wanted to sharpen a point that was made by Judge Burke. Lehigh County is approximately our size, a little bit bigger. their clerk of courts, prothonotary, wills, deeds, they have 48 employees in that operation. We have 38 in our operation. We are not an overstaffed government by any means. And we struggle with trying to prioritize, but debt service, public safety comes, those are the first two things that we have to deal with, and that takes a big chunk out of the general fund.
We know we have to pay bills, but we need money to pay bills. So Rick, I'm going to ask you, what is council looking at, to generate income in Luzerne County? And maybe Bob has some suggestions as to how do you generate, because we all ask for things and we need things, okay?
Well, our struggle, a couple things. Number one, we're always looking to cut expenses without cutting services. Generating revenue is very tough, but one of the things that we are having success with is some real estate transactions. This council has been very proactive in going out and looking to sell land, get rid of some of the assets that we could get some revenue in, and that are just sitting out there. My philosophy, and I think some other council members, is let's try to do what we can. Let's try to weed off a lot of the stuff in the county that have just been bogging us down. So real estate has been one thing. The debt, which we've been talking about, one thing we have to do is we have to get a bond rating. We don't have a bond rating. So what we're doing is, and one of our jobs, and what Bob elaborated to, is trying to get our budgets in line so we could go back to S&P or Moody's and ask for a bond rating. Once we get a bond rating, we could refinance and we could bring down that debt, and that'll help us. So that's a way to generate money. So we're looking at different areas. We've been discussing things with council, and it's easier said than done.
Yeah, no question. What's the biggest form of revenue you have right now? What's the biggest?
Tax base.
Tax base. Okay, so how do you increase the tax base without making it more difficult for the people already paying taxes? Bob, you have?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Is increasing the base. Increasing the rate has a tough impact on people who own homes. Increasing the base, more property tax ratables, more homes, better assessment practices. Those are things we're working on to grow the base so that the rate people pay doesn't have to increase. And there's a big thing on the revenue side and on the expense side coming, I think, in February. We have the firm Public Financial Management is doing a review of county operations. They've done reviews in the past for us and made recommendations, and they are working. They're working with members of the public. They're working with county staff. If you're interested, go to financialplan.luzernecounty.org, financialplan.luzernecounty.org, and it has our old plans that were done under the commissioners. It has an email address. If the public has ideas that they'd like to submit, that goes right to PFM. It doesn't get screened or censored by us, and it'll give us a working document during 2015. I've already pledged anything that the review comes up with that can be implemented by the manager alone, I'll do. Anything that I need the council's help with, I'll ask for it, and I will give to council anything that they alone have the ability to do.
Everyone wants to pay their fair share, and that's the concern, paying your fair share. When there's some people, the homeowners are getting clobbered, okay? How do we make it a fair share? Folks, I'm talking to Bob Lawton, who is the county manager, Luzerne County manager, Rick Morelli, who is on the council, and the Honorable Tom Burke. We're here at his chambers. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7, SSPTV.com. You can watch all of our shows. My email, sam@SSPTV.com. I'm here at the Luzerne County Courthouse talking to Bob Lawton, who is the Luzerne County manager, Rick Morelli, who is on the council, and the Honorable Tom Burke. We talked about, the taxpayers today. You have a home, you want to improve your home, you're proud of it, and yet, where do they go and look for money? They come and assess you because you want to improve your home. And I said about paying the fair share. If you have this answer, you'll become a billionaire, but maybe you're working on it, Bob. How is it fair and share so the seniors don't have to keep on paying? Poor seniors are giving up their prescriptions. They can't, it's a tough for them. How do you do that?
Well, the first thing is you work on controlling expenditures. We've been pretty aggressive with that here at the county, especially in the past year. We've taken $2 million savings in our health insurance costs because of things that we've been able to negotiate with employees and with our insurers. That's a big step forward in controlling costs. In terms of revenues, 85% of this county's revenues come from property taxes. That's a huge burden. Anything we do for economic development, Sam, creates jobs, but we generally have to, in a form of a KOZ or alerta abatement, we give up the revenue from the property tax. So it's great for anybody who makes money off the income tax, but not so great for us. Senator Blake from Lackawanna County has introduced legislation. The county council here in the past has voted in support of it that would offer a 1% sales tax increase. And the funds would be divided among the localities, the townships and the cities where it's collected, and the county. And the county would be required to use a certain percentage of it for direct property tax relief to bring the rates down, and would have the ability to use another portion of it to address our debt service and free up funds that we currently use for debt service to either place in a reserve account or improve our tax rate. So that's out there, and it's being looked at by counties throughout the region because we all recognize that most of us are dependent on property taxes, and it can't continue that way. We control costs, but we have to look at revenue side of it. And the sales tax lets us capture money from people who are passing through or come from other places to shop. Mm-hmm. It spreads the burden much greater basis.
Do you get any casino money?
No. I think we may be the only county in the state that doesn't. The way the distribution was set up when this went in is it goes out to the municipalities.
So you have to be extremely creative here in the county because keeping in mind, folks, when you're getting money, it's helping all of us. I mean, it's not going in Bob Lawton's pocket.
And the other thing I want to make clear, if you look at the 12 third-class counties, we fall right in the middle on every measure, in the middle on population, in the middle on budget, in the middle on tax rates, in the middle on cost per capita of our government, the cost per person of county government. In every way, we're not floating up there at the top. There are a lot of counties that impose a higher burden on the taxpayers than we do, and I think we've gotten far more efficient over the last few years. So it's important to understand the context for us too.
Now, have you set the challenge for the council, or Rick? Have you guys set a challenge for 2014 as to what are you really going to focus in on? Either one of you.
Well, again, we're now just coming into 2015, and that's one of the things that council will be looking at is setting goals. One of our major objectives is the budget, obviously. That's one thing that we are in charge of at the end of the day, and to try to keep things in line. And so hopefully we'll obviously want to get the audits in line on time, and we want to make sure that we have a good understanding of the divisions and how we spend money, et cetera. So that's clearly something. But I think that with 11 council members and something that we need to take different responsibilities. Okay, we all handle one thing, and that's why our meetings are so long. So we do need to set goals.
Can I give you a suggestion?
More efficient.
Can I give you a suggestion? Please. Even though I should be on your council. Just a hint.
The people of the county make that decision, not the manager.
We should focus on revenue. It's easy to cut expenses. And when you start cutting expenses, just like Judge Burke would like to have more for the courts. And I think probably the talents here, and you have a lot of great talents on the council, and certainly talking with Bob for the first time meeting him, we should be focused on revenue. How do we get more revenue?
Well, again, don't make it sound like we're not.
I'm just saying, I said focus.
And again, trying to generate revenue coming in, it's very difficult. And for anybody, again, we see it with all the different municipalities. So it's one of the things, again, we have a lot of different things.
It's called creativity.
Rickard,
yeah. It's called creativity.
See, I didn't see him in the front row because he has all the answers.
No, I don't have the. What I'm saying is, if you focus on, you got a lot of great. The Luzerne County's loaded with talent, okay. And if we look at how do we get creativity, that's the thing. Listen, I don't envy this guy at all because we're all trying to do the best, and certainly when you look at the results and what the good judge said as far as how you've been working so far, hey, this county's come a long way.
Again, so, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, but the fact is even with the old government versus, everyone's always thinking about revenue. Yeah. It's just, people say, well, this should be treated like a business. It's government, and I've made that argument with you before.
Judge, you have that magic wand?
Well, fair is fair. I don't know that northeastern Pennsylvania has ever recovered from the financial collapse of 2008. And we'd like to believe a rising tide lifts all boats, and that we have to be strategic in this realm as well as the way we try to approach the courts. So I'm just a citizen when I make this observation. I believe that the concentrated efforts of council and management to restore fiscal integrity to the whole budget process and to hold ourselves accountable while at the same time looking for initiatives and then in some measure keeping your fingers crossed looking for that uptick in the overall economy. Our national news tells us the unemployment rate is down and things are starting to pick up, GDP and so forth. We'd like to see more of that in Luzerne. We think the infrastructure is here in Luzerne to move up a couple notches, to move forward, but a lot of it does come down to public confidence and also the way we are viewed by people from outside the region. And that's why image is so very important for the courts as well as for county government and our other institutions, including school boards.
I couldn't agree with you more. Some people don't know the damage they do when they continue to hammer not in a professional manner, and it hurts image, and that's so important. I don't know why. I'm sure I could disagree with this guy, but still respect what he is, but present it in a manner that is constructive, as Rick, have you done when you were school board president? Okay, Judge, thanks for inviting me here and letting us use your chambers. Okay.
Well, you've been a great moderator. It's been a pleasure to participate as equal branch, and
now you said you could dance a little bit better now because you're not the president judge, right?
I'll be back doing the polka probably next week.
There you go. Rick, thanks for setting this up. This was great. This was Rick Morelli, and it was a great idea. Bob, nice meeting you. Okay,
pleasure here.
Nice meeting you. Bob Lawton, folks, who is the county manager, Rick Morelli, counsel, and of course the Honorable Tom Burke, who was the president judge at the time. Folks, I think the more you learn about what's happening in Luzerne County, we need your input. Let's be positive, though. That's the most important thing. When we're negative, we're hurting ourselves. Let's be positive. Does it mean they can be constructive? Yes, but let's be positive. We'll see you next time.